The Philadelphia Eagles just showed out at their mandatory minicamp as several players are really turning heads, and that includes Jordan Davis, who seems to just keep getting better, along with second-year edge rusher Jalyx Hunt, who Lane Johnson says is ready to have a breakout season. And the All-Pro is also expecting big things from one of the Birds' most underrated new additions. Plus, Kelee Ringo stood out as he just made a statement in the battle for the starting cornerback job, but we also got some updates on the Birds' other positional battles and on Jihaad Campbell's injury status. So I'm going to talk about that and all the other latest news from mandatory minicamps starting right now. It's officially summer break for the Philadelphia Eagles as they just wrapped up their spring training period with their final practice before training camp, that coming yesterday on June 10th in the form of their mandatory minicamp. So naturally, we got a bunch of news, rumors, highlights, and storylines to talk about, so we're going to break that all down in just a minute. But first, when it comes to offseason training, perhaps nobody has gone harder this offseason, at least publicly, than AJ Brown, as he's continued to give fans a behind-the-scenes look into his offseason workouts and what he's been doing to keep improving after winning a Super Bowl. And I think based on what we've seen, it's pretty safe to say that he's still hungrier than ever. I mean, the guy's just been on another level with his training and messaging ever since winning the Super Bowl, and the latest video that he just released from the link, I think, is the coolest one yet.
Blueprint. Here. Right here. It's the word for sure. It's this part. Seeing yourself. Then seeing yourself. Visualizing yourself, making plays. They gotta start in the mind first. They gotta start in the mind. We put the work in first, but I want you to see yourself. Look what you just did. Look what you just accomplished. That work gonna pay off. Believe that work gonna pay off. That's your superpower. That belief system in yourself. But it's starting in the mind. It's starting in the mind. Making plays. You running. You hit your 1-2. You getting open. You running your whip route, you getting open. Going up down the sideline. That's where it starts. You visualizing that. Fool. Your ass might be up there soon. Hey, God willing, bro.
Again, you definitely love to see AJ Brown working hard in the offseason. He also was obviously seen mentoring second-year receiver Aniyah Smith in that video, which is cool to see. I mean, I just absolutely love the message that he gave to him about visualization and stuff like that. And also, Smith is also right in saying that AJ's number could be up in the rafters one day if things keep going the way they're going. I mean, he's already got a new banner up outside the link, which is awesome, and I think he already has a clear case to be the best wide receiver in Eagles history, yet he is clearly continuing to grind and get better. So, you know, again, I'm just personally so fired up to see what AJ Brown can do this season. And really, same goes for the rest of this Eagles team, because from top to bottom, they have continued to echo the same message ever since winning the Super Bowl. They're not satisfied, and they're going to continue to stay hungry and work hard so that they can climb the mountain once again this coming season. And like I said, a lot of the guys have echoed that this offseason, including Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Nolan Smith, and most recently, Lane Johnson.
The routine has always been a routine, whether we plan to February or not. And so, you set goals to try and accomplish those things in that moment and in that month. Ultimately, the process is always ongoing. It's always, how can I get better? How can I improve? Everything that's been accomplished to this point, it's great, but there's a desire to achieve more.
I think the way you repeat is by completely forgetting what happened the year prior. You won a Super Bowl, great, it's amazing. You're going to have that forever. No one can ever change that. 2024 Super Bowl champs. Yeah. 2025 season has nothing to do with the 2024 season. And I think that's the hardest thing, right? Like I say, getting to the top of the mountain is hard, but staying up there is even harder. And how do you have sustained success? And you just focus on the things that got you there. Like I said, the recipe, but it doesn't matter what happened the year prior. It's a totally new year. It's going to look different.
Yeah.
It might not require a 2,000-yard season from me.
Yeah.
It might require me getting my yards in a different way.
Yeah.
It might be Jalen having an MVP season. It might be A.J. Brown having an MVP season. It might be we might need to score more points, and the defense not playing to the level they played last year, or vice versa. It's just like the way we do it, if we continue to have the mindset we had the year prior, where we really submitted to you can't be great without the greatness of others, not caring how it looked, and the talent that we have, we're going to put ourselves in a great position.
Man, feed the fire and be hungry. Feed the fire and be hungry. And I always say, Coach Smart used to say, all right, last year's last year. Turn the page. I know everybody
excited for the rings and all of that. I've been turned the page, you know, especially after the parade. I got back to doing what I was doing because I knew I had to rehab.
You know, for us, I think we just got to stay hungry. We can't be complacent. We can't be satisfied. And, you know, it's really, you know, about dominating the day each day. And it's, you know, it's a lot easier said than done.
I want to give credit to reporter Jason Dumas for saying this first, but just listening to these guys talk, it certainly doesn't seem like this is a group that's going to have a Super Bowl hangover or anything like that this year. I mean, they are clearly locked in on the journey of this next season, and that makes me feel pretty confident in their chances of repeating as Super Bowl champions. And obviously, a huge part of that journey is the training and practices in the offseason, including, of course, mandatory minicamp, which, like I said, took place yesterday, so we got a ton of news and storylines to go over, and we'll start with an update on all the most important positional battles, and first up there is right guard, where once again, it was Tyler Steen getting the first team reps with the starters, so, you know, no surprise there, as he's consistently been the one getting the start all offseason long, and it definitely looks like it's his spot to lose at this point. However, if you ask Nick Sirianni, it's still up in the air.
Don't have to make any of those decisions quite yet. Got a lot of football to practice, a lot of football to play. And, you know, obviously a big part of the offensive line and the evaluation of the offensive line comes in pads. That doesn't mean we're not evaluating them like crazy right now, but a big part of that's going to come when we put the pads on.
I think that's no surprise there. I mean, obviously, Nick is usually very vague and non-committal when answering questions about stuff like that. But again, it is very telling that Steen has been the consistent starter for all three practices that have been open to the media, and he very clearly is the heavy favorite. Now, Lane Johnson did have some really good things to say about Bird's new guard, Kendall Green, while also hinting at an intense training camp battle at the right guard position.
He's long, he's strong, he has all the traits. You know, he's still young. You know, everything's out in front of him, and training camp's going to be a battle for everybody, but, you know, really a big battle at that right guard spot.
But at the same time, Lane also had some really overwhelmingly positive things to say about Steen as well.
Yeah, Steen is, you know, develops a lot. I think when you look at him, he's just a physically gifted dude, man. He's a lot stronger, you know, than what he was when he first arrived. So, you know, I think in his playing strength is starting to show, and, you know, I know he's ready for camp to start. And, yeah, man, he's been putting in work, and, you know, I think you've seen traits of him where he can be a dominating player. So now it's just about, you know, trying to do it every play.
Overall, I definitely think, based on everything that we heard, it's going to be Tyler Steen's job to lose going into training camp. And I absolutely love those comments coming from Lane, because it gets me even more excited about Steen's potential and what he could possibly become in 2025. Moving on though, we switch over to the safety position, as there's of course a pretty tough battle going on there between Sidney Brown and Andrew Mukuba that's going to last throughout all of August, but as of now, like I predicted, it seems like one guy has the clear edge, with that being the third-year young veteran Sidney Brown, as although Mukuba did get some reps during Tuesday's practice, plenty of reps actually, with the ones, it was Brown who primarily got the start. And again, this doesn't surprise me considering that he's the guy who's been here for 3 years, but again, just because Sid seems to have the early edge doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to win the job, and this battle is overall going to be pretty tight, and I'm sure we won't have a definitive answer on who won until we get to the season. However, one that I think has the potential to be decided a little bit earlier is the battle at cornerback between Kelee Ringo and Adoree Jackson. As I think if Ringo, who of course was a young draft pick of the Birds a few years ago, and hence I'm sure a guy that they want to see play, if he really starts to come on and performs well in training camp, then I think he can honestly run away with the starting job. And I mean, honestly, I think he's already started to do that a little bit just based on what we've heard about him during the spring, and especially during mandatory minicamp, as not only was he the primary starter at corner for the second straight media open practice, but he also was one of the standouts of the day, as he had several nice plays, including locking down A.J. Brown on one rep and apparently discouraging Jalen Hurts from throwing in that direction. And then in reps with the second team, he had a pass breakup on a throw to wide receiver Danny Gray, and later had another PBU in the back corner of the end zone. So overall, it was a really impressive day for Kelee Ringo, and definitely a step in the right direction in his quest to win the starting job. But in addition to Ringo, there were also a few other standouts from Tuesday's mandatory minicamp practice. As staying with the defensive side of the ball, another guy who really impressed was defensive tackle Jordan Davis, and this comes after there was already a ton of hype surrounding him following the last practice of OTAs, as both he and defensive coordinator Vic Fangio said that the fourth-year man out of Georgia was in the best shape of his life. Fangio also specifically talked about JD's improvements, specifically as a pass rusher down the stretch of last year, and said that he expects that to continue into this season. So that only got fans like myself fired up about the possibility of JD having a breakout season in 2025. And Tuesday's practice only got me even more fired up, as he apparently had a really good day. And that included getting a sack on Jalen Hurts, and also, he and Jalyx Hunt were frustrating Jordan Mailata all practice long. So that's pretty darn impressive and exciting if you ask me, considering that Mailata is obviously an all-pro. And again, it certainly seems like a true breakout season could be coming for JD. And I also feel the same way about the other guy you mentioned there in edge rusher Jalyx Hunt. I mean, just like I said about Davis, to hear that Jalyx Hunt is giving Jordan Mailata fits in practice is just so darn exciting. Not to mention that he also got a sack on Jalen Hurts at one point. So, I mean, yeah, like there's clearly a lot of reasons to be excited about Hunt right now, and the hype is only continuing to build going into next season. And like, just think about how much better Hunt has gotten in such a short amount of time. Like, this guy went from supposedly a developmental project last offseason where, if you'll remember, Jordan Mailata wasn't exactly an easy matchup for him.
What's up? How you doing?
As well. How are you?
I'm tired, man.
Yeah, I'm sure. But how are things going?
It's going well. I got my first team reps today.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was hard.
No hiccups or anything?
No, I did pretty well. I'm not going to lie. Jordan Mailata is mad strong.
Oh, he looks like a giant.
He is. I'm not going to lie. He's a man amongst men.
And now fast forward to this offseason, and the last game that Hunt played in was the Super Bowl, where he got half a sack on Patrick Mahomes and wreaked havoc in the backfield all game long. And now he's clearly a rising star who's giving Mailata fits in practice, while Lane Johnson also says that he expects the second-year man to have a breakout season.
I think Jalyx, I think this is going to be a big year for him. He has all the tools. He's gained some weight, so he's really, I think it's going to be a really breakout year for him.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's kind of hard not to buy into the Jalyx Hunt hype. And you guys know that, like Lane Johnson, I'm expecting a true breakout season for Jalyx Hunt going into his second year with the Birds. But in addition to talking about Hunt, Lane also talked about the rest of the edge rusher room, and while he had some very positive comments about all the guys really, what he said about one of them in particular really stood out. And specifically, I am talking about the new free agent acquisition, Joshua Uche, as Lane really seemed to single him out as the first edge rusher that has really impressed him the most during the spring.
Uche, yeah, I remember playing Patriots really quick. I think he's very versatile, what he can do.
Patriots game in 23, what stood out to you about Uche?
He made a good inside move to only beat me. Ball was gone, but just really quick. I think he plays really low, for taller guys. He can get under you if you let him, but, I think he's great in coverage, just a multi-tool player. So, I think he's going to help us.
I mean, this goes for Hunt too, but to hear an all-pro player like Lane Johnson praise and rave about Josh Uche like that definitely gets my attention. I mean, for a player of Lane's caliber who's gone up against Uche in the past and now in practice, I mean, his comments hold some weight for sure, so that definitely gets me even more excited to see what he can do this season. And you guys already know, if you've been consistently watching these videos, that I'm already really excited about Josh Uche's potential, because even though the sack numbers haven't always been there, he obviously had that one year in 2022 where he put up 11.5 sacks, and since then, his pressure rate has been towards the top of the league. So, even though he's on just a cheap one-year deal, I think he very much could have a great year, a breakout year even, for the Birds defense this season. I mean, heck, we just saw what Zach Bond did last year in the exact same situation, and according to the star linebacker himself, Bond's story has only inspired Uche to do the same thing.
In team meetings, Nick mentions kind of my story, and with all the one-year deal guys we have now, Nick mentioned my story earlier on in OTAs, and I love it because he uses me as an example to kind of prove yourself, like, and this, especially in this organization. This is an organization that's going to give you a shot, an honest try, and I've talked to Josh Uche especially. He's really inspired and trying to take that same trajectory, that same path.
It certainly sounds like Joshua Uche is motivated to follow in Bond's footsteps and have his best year yet in his first season in Philly. Again, I'm certainly very fired up about him and his potential, and I think he can have a big year, and hearing that he's been impressing during spring practices only reinforces that belief for me. But now, switching over to the other side of the ball, the big stars have obviously had fantastic spring training periods, and that includes somebody like quarterback Jalen Hurts, who once again was phenomenal during mandatory minicamp, as he went 20 for 21 on his throws with a touchdown and no interceptions. And that touchdown pass may actually have been one of the best plays of the spring, as he apparently threw a perfectly placed deep ball to Devontae Smith from about 30 yards out for the score. And in addition to that, Brandon Lee Gowden also said that Hurts threw another TD at one point to Terrence Marshall, who had beat Cooper DeJean on a crossing route. Now, I don't know why ESP didn't count that in his tracker, so that makes me question if it actually happened or not. So maybe it's legit, maybe it's not, but either way, it was still a great day for Jalen Hurts and a great overall spring, as he finished 50 for 55 in all the media open sessions combined with no interceptions. So that's definitely a very good sign. But moving on, there were also a couple of surprise standouts at the wide receiver position during minicamp and OTAs, including both Terrence Marshall, who I mentioned there as being the recipient of a possible Jalen Hurts touchdown pass, and then also there's Danny Gray, who multiple reports noted has had a very impressive spring and is definitely making a case so far to make the roster. So, you know, these guys aren't big names, and they're obviously just going to be fighting for a roster spot in training camp, but it's definitely noteworthy that they've both impressed. And also, something else that's very noteworthy is that Eagles first round pick Jihaad Campbell actually had his helmet on at practice and was doing some position drills with the off-ball linebackers, and that's obviously a huge step in the right direction in terms of his injury recovery, as Campbell has obviously missed all of spring training so far as he's recovering from shoulder surgery, and while he won't be fully back practicing 100% for a long time still, again, it was definitely a great step in the right direction to see him with his helmet on, doing some drills at practice. But with that said, with mandatory minicamp now wrapped up, it's obviously summer break for the Philadelphia Eagles, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be anything to talk about, and I also got some fun stuff planned coming over these next few weeks and months. So if you guys don't want to miss any of that, make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications. That way you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded or I go live. Also, make sure you guys drop a like down below, because it really does help me out a ton. So if we can get to at least 500 likes on today's video, that would be greatly appreciated. And also, leave a comment down below. What was the biggest storyline that stuck out to you during mandatory minicamp? And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going over 8 Philadelphia Eagles who impressed during OTAs, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.